بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا زدنا علما. Billahi tabarak wa ta'ala. Inshallah, we reached up to page number 8 in our book Al-Fiqh min Ulum ad-Dunya, is fiqh among the sciences of this world. Let's begin with Al-Fatiha to the soul of Imam Al-Ghazali rahimahullah ta'ala. Al-Fatiha. Bismillah.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. The author, may Allah Ta'ala have mercy on him, said, fiqh is a worldly science. If you were to ask why I have annexed fiqh to the worldly types of knowledge, you should know that Allah
Because remember, Imam Al-Ghazali mentioned that there is those sciences relate to the world, and there are sciences that relate to the akhirah. And he mentioned that fiqh relates to worldly matters, whereas the matters of the heart are another science. And the matters of the heart relate to the akhirah.
You should know that Allah Ta'ala created the world as a provision for the afterlife, so that one takes from it what is useful as provision. If people behaved towards the world with with justice, disputes among them would cease and the fuqaha would become redundant. However, people engage in this world with their desires, which leads to disputes and gives rise to the need for a ruler to preside over them. The ruler is then in need of a law to impose on the people. The faqih, therefore, is the person who knows the law of governing and the way to settle people's disputes when they differ because of their individual desires. The faqih is thus both the teacher of the ruler and his guide to governing and regulating people, so that the affairs of the world become orderly through people abiding by the law.
And this is something to think about, right? That this dunya is a place where we take our provisions for the hereafter. The best provision is in this world is the provision of a taqwa, right? And we should keep that in mind. We're here for one purpose and one purpose only: to worship Allah until death, so that we can be successful in the hereafter. That's it. Everything else, in reality, is a wastage of time. In reality, I didn't say it was haram, but the wise person really realizes that I'm here on a journey, and the only thing that's going to benefit me on this journey as a provision for the destination is at-taqwa, al-ibadah. And that's why Imam Al-Ghazali mentions al-ilm wal-ibadah, knowledge and worshiping, right? That's it. And even if I do worldly things, I must turn that into acts of worship. So al-fiqh is to make sure that I engage in the world in the way that Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala ordered me, right? That's the purpose of learning al-fiqh, to govern my limits in my journey on this in this world. Now,
No doubt, fiqh is also related to the deen, not by itself, but through the world, because the latter is the sowing field of the afterlife, and the deen is not complete without this world.
because in the hereafter there's going to be no judgment. The judgment for the deeds is in this world. I mean, excuse me, the in the hereafter there's going to be no work, only judgment. The work is only in this world. As for the hereafter, it's all judgment. Let me repeat that. I had a slip of the tongue. This world is only work, and the hereafter is only judgment. In the hereafter, there's going to be no work, only judgment. So now you do all the work now, and that is the location where fiqh is applied. There's not taklif in the hereafter. You're not going to be ordered to do things or forbid from things in the hereafter. Mm.
If you were to say this is true regarding the penal code, hudud, indemnities, and settling disputes, but it cannot be true of that which includes the acts of worship, such as fasting, prayer, and so forth, then you should know that the faqih speaks of three things concerning the deeds of the afterlife: Islam, the prayer, and zakat, and the lawful and unlawful.
Mm.
You ponder on the utmost limits of the faqih's consideration of these matters, you will know that he does not exceed the limits of this world to proceed to the afterlife. And if you know this fact with regard to these three matters, then how much more true it is of other matters.
Allahu Akbar.
Regarding Islam, the faqih speaks about that which validates and invalidates it, and about its conditions. In all this, he does not pay attention to anything except what the tongue utters. The heart lies outside the faqih's jurisdiction. This is because Allah Ta'ala's Messenger, sallallahu alaihi
Sallallahu
wasallam,
alayhi wa sallam.
may his blessings and peace be upon him, has prevented those in authority from trying to judge people's sincerity. For he said, Did you split
Here, and this is something. Good.
did you split open his heart to discover whether he was sincere?
Here, this is the hadith of Sayyidina Usama ibn Zayd when he killed that man that he was pursuing in the battlefield. And when he called him, that man said, La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, and he killed him. And the Prophet ﷺ asked him, after he said that he only said it to protect himself from being killed, he said, Did you cut open his heart? In other words, we only go by the outward. The matters of the heart are reserved for Allah Ta'ala. And that's why we should ensure that when we make outward judgments about people's inward states, that we know well the possibilities of those judgments. What am I saying? Don't rush to call people kafir, no matter who pushes you to that. Don't rush to that. Unless you yourself have a vast understanding of the sacred law and all of the exceptions related to the judgments you're making. If you didn't have that kind of knowledge, which most of us don't, then don't rush around calling people kafir. Don't do it. It is much safer for you to say, I don't know the judgment, which is more likely to be true than to rush into judgments. This is very important. It is much safer for you to say, I don't know the judgment, which is most likely true, than to rush on some outward sign that you don't know the details of. We've been afflicted with this disease, and we need to watch it. Because the one who gave us this disease don't care if we die. So don't follow that. Be careful. When a person says they're a Muslim, we're going to give that priority over the questionable statement or action that may indicate something other than that. Until we have complete certainty, we're going to leave them in their state. And the reality of their hearts is with Allah. Is this point clear? It's very important because I hear it quite often without real understanding of the issues. And I don't want us to fall into that. If someone else falls into it, let them fall into it. Don't you fall into it. Don't rush to call people kafir. Don't rush. Because someone told you this is kufr based on their limited understanding of the issue. Don't do that. You don't have to agree with someone, but you don't have to rush to call someone kafir. You can just disagree and say there's details that I don't know. But I reject such saying. That's it. You're not a faqih. You're not a jurist or a mufti. That's not your job. And most likely, you will make the wrong judgment because of your lack of understanding of the issue and the details related to the issue. And don't push no one for that. Don't push people for that. No, a homosexual is not a kafir in and of itself. And don't ask for more details. No, a homosexual in and of himself is not a kafir. If he was a Muslim, I'm talking about. There are details, don't ask about them. Go ahead.
Pronouncing the attestation of faith renders one's life and property immunized in this world. This is why the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, may Allah Ta'ala's blessings and peace be upon him, said, I was commanded to fight people until they say, there is no God except Allah Ta'ala. When they say it, their lives and property become immunized with me. Note particularly that he indicated that the utterance of the attestation of faith renders one's life and property immune. As for the afterlife, properties are of no avail, but only the lights of hearts and their sincerity matter, and this does not belong to the domain of fiqh.
As Allah said, يوم لا ينفع مال ولا بنون إلا من أتى الله بقلب سليم. On the day when children or wealth will not benefit, only the one who comes to Allah with a sincere heart, a pure heart.
As for the prayer, the faqih would declare its soundness if the outward form of the acts performed meet the outward conditions. even if one was heedless from the beginning of the prayer until its end, and even if one was preoccupied with calculating one's transactions in the marketplace. However, such a prayer would be of no benefit in the afterlife. As for humility and concentration, which are the deeds of the afterlife, and by means of which the outward acts are beneficial, the faqih does not consider them at all.
Right. So if you ask someone about a prayer, the faqih, rather, the jurist, you're only going to ask him about the outward prayer. Did he fulfill the conditions? Did he maintain the requisites? Did he avoid the invalidators? The prayer is valid. As for the reality of the inward state of the heart, the faqih has no relation to that. So he's not going to consider that, right? He's not going to consider if you are showing off in your prayer, which would invalidate the rewardability of the prayer, right? The faqih is not looking for that. So, did you do the rules? Yes, that's it. But the reality in the hereafter, which is uh, reward or punishment, that's going to be related also to the states of the heart, in addition to the outward things. Because you can do an outward thing that looks valid, but with Allah, it's not acceptable. Mm. Go ahead.
As for zakat, the faqih considers only that which, if given, would not be pursued by the authorities. As for the lawful and unlawful, scrupulousness with regard to the
And keep
unlawful.
in mind, when you don't pay your zakat, you're not getting away with it. If it was in the Islamic country, the sultan would come take it from you. The ruler would take it from you. But since you don't have a ruler and you still don't pay, Allah is going to deal with that on the day of judgment. Don't put yourself before the judgment of Allah Ta'ala. Take care of your issues in this world. Mm.
As for the lawful and unlawful, scrupulousness with regard to the unlawful is required in the deen, but scrupulousness has four ranks. The
Mm.
first is that which is required for the credibility of a witness in court. The second is the scrupulousness of the righteous, which is regarding oneself from doubtful matters. The Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, may Allah Ta'ala's blessings and peace be upon him, said, "Leave that which is doubtful to you for that in which there is no doubt." The third is the scrupulousness of the pious, muttaqin, which is abstinence, from that which is purely lawful, but which is feared may lead to something unlawful. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, may Allah Ta'ala's blessings and peace be upon him, said, "A man does not become among the pious until he leaves that which is fine to indulge in, for fear that it may lead to him to engage in that which is not fine to indulge in."
In this, al-wara, in this sense, is extremely important, right? A high level where you know something is lawful, but you avoid it because you don't want it to lead to anything unlawful. It's lawful, but I'm not going to do that because it can lead to something that is unlawful. And they used to say about some of the Salaf that they would leave 70 doors of halal for fear of falling into one door of the haram. In our code, where is this concept of al-wara exists? In which number? Let me see if y'all answer that. In our 3453 code, where is this existing at? This concept. Five. All right, Araki is doing her thing. Okay. Okay. Right. What is five? What is five? What is it? Five. What are they? So there's five. What are the five? Allah. Five, Imam al-Haddad, right? What are the five? العلم العمل الإخلاص الورع الخوف ما شاء الله فاطمة. Okay, barakallahu fiki. May Allah reward you. MashaAllah. Okay, go ahead.
The fourth is that of the truthful, as Siddiqeen, which is shunning everything other than Allah Ta'ala, the Exalted, for fear of spending a moment of their lives on what is not beneficial in drawing them near to Allah Ta'ala, glorified and exalted is He.
Here, I want you to write these things. I'm really taking our time with this. It's very important. Right? Let's look at these last three, 2, 3, and 4. The scrupulousness of the pious, as-salihin, is to be aware of doubtful matters, meaning stay away from them, right? To stay away from doubt. That's the level of the salihun. Al-muttaqun, to leave off that which is clearly halal for fear of falling into something that is haram. The next level, as-siddiqun, the highly ranking pious people, is to turn away from everything other than Allah for fear that a moment of your life would be spent in something that doesn't draw you closer to Allah in status. Let us strive at each level. At the first level, stay away from doubtful stuff. Right? Doubtful stuff, shubuhat, are matters that can bear more than one view. Let me explain something to you. We have to stop this. When I was thinking about this, and sometimes I want to interrupt, but I just hold myself. But I'm tired of people abusing us with their stuff. And it doesn't help us. Not at all. Right? We 40 years, 50 years been subject to somebody's nonsense in the name of religion. And we still doing it. We got to stop that stuff. What is he talking about? I'm going to tell you. Just be patient. We don't have to agree with somebody, but we're not going to lie on them. We're not going to project our feelings on someone else's reality. That's haram. Do y'all follow me? Don't tell somebody what they believe. Ask them what they believe if you're not sure. Don't project your view on them. Like someone says, the Sufis worship graves. And no Sufi worship no grave. What are you talking about? That's you projecting on us because you don't understand what we do. So you go tell people, oh, he's a Sufi. He worshiped graves and saints. A'udhu billah. It's nonsense. Nobody worships a grave or a saint. According to the Sufis, that's kufr. So what are you talking about? You get my point? Y'all follow clear what I'm saying? They worshiping other than Allah. They calling on the saints and the prophet. That's shirk. That's your view of shirk. We don't see it that way. And nor do we believe that at all. In fact, we believe the opposite. That's one point, right? So your whole understanding, we don't see it that way at all. Period. So don't project that on me. Ask me, what do you, by doing that, what do you mean by that? Maybe you'll get a better answer. That's from one side. Likewise, I don't know one Wahhabi who thinks Allah is like his creation. Listen to what I just said. I don't know one Wahhabi who knows anything about Wahhabism who believes Allah is like his creation. Follow what I'm saying. I don't know one who knows anything. An ignorant person, layman, just you may have an ignorant person who says he's Sufi and does worship a grave. That doesn't reflect the Sufis. That's that ignorant person. Likewise, if you have someone who is Wahhabi and thinks Allah is like his creation, that is not a red reflection of the Wahhabi doctrine. That's that ignorant, unlearned person. Now, the things the Wahhabis do to us may indicate that they resemble Allah to his creation. And we reject that. But to say an individual himself believes that, that's not true. And you shouldn't lie on him. Just say the belief you have that Allah is in a place could lead to believing that Allah is like the creation. And we believe it does. However, from your side, whatever you have, even if you don't have anything in your mind, you believe that this is confirming the text. And you think that that's confirming the text, and still that doesn't entail you liking Allah to creation. That's a mistake. But I understand what you're saying. It's wrong, but I'm not going to accuse you of what I want you to have. Do y'all understand that? It's a big difference. Because you're never going to get nowhere. The Wahhabis don't worship a big body in heaven that they imagine. That's not true. That's false. Even if what they're saying would lead someone to believe that, they don't believe that. Their belief is wrong. It's not correct, but it's not that. Do y'all understand what I'm saying? I'm saying it because we get to be parrots and we repeat the wrong stuff and it's backwards to da'wah. It doesn't work. Do y'all follow me? Is this clear? Any questions? Do you understand what I'm saying? If you don't, ask a question because it's very important. Okay. You say I do to an extent. What do you do to an extent? Okay, you ever met a Wahhabi say Allah is a big body sitting on top of the throne in heaven and got a big face and hands? You ever heard a Wahhabi say that? No, you've never heard a Wahhabi say that. But you might have heard him said that Allah has hands and a face, wal-iyadhu billah, but it's not like anything in the creation. And then they stop right there. They don't try to define it. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But nevertheless, in their way, what they're trying to do is affirm a text while clearing Allah from the creation, and they make a mistake by that. But don't say that they mean by that Allah is like the creation. That's not true. And they will never accept. And therefore, you've ruined the da'wah for your party line. They ain't going to accept that because they don't believe it. Do you understand my point? They're not going to accept that. They don't believe that. Do you follow the difference? They are mistaken. But what you're accusing them of, they'll never accept. Just as we would never accept that we worship graves, though they accuse us of that. Do you understand that? They're going to say, if I go to the grave and I make dua, they're going to say, he's worshiping the grave. I don't accept at all. I'm going to never accept that. That's their view. That's what they're trying to project on us. But that's not true. And the reverse way, they're going to look at you the same way. They're going to say, we don't worship nobody in heaven. What are you talking about? And you're telling people that. They're not going to listen. Now, if you got to the point of what they're really saying, and you learn how to academically attack what they're really saying or correct what they're really saying, now you're talking. There's a big difference. Do you understand the difference? It's very important. Because I hear some stuff and I'll be like, that doesn't even make no sense. You think they're going to listen to that? Stop. That doesn't make no sense. That's your imagination running wild. That's not theirs. And even if what they say in your mind alludes to that, they don't believe that. Their belief is wrong. I didn't say it wasn't wrong. It's wrong, but it's not that. Do you understand? So that's what, and then you're based on that and call someone a kafir. And that's dangerous. You're basing on your understanding, you're projecting, and then projecting, you're going to call someone a disbeliever. And that's a mistake. From someone who doesn't even believe what you're talking about. That's dangerous. Extremely dangerous. I hope I'm clear. I'd rather you learn than just blind follow and make up stuff as you go along. I'd rather you learn. That doesn't help us at all. It may help someone's political agenda or organizational agenda, but it doesn't help us. It doesn't at all. It may float your political agenda and increase your group and your organization, but it's not helping us as a people. In fact, it's counterproductive. And anyone who says that is not speaking from a scholarly Wahhabi position. No Wahhabi scholar of any serious rank would accept that statement. So whoever told someone that doesn't understand. And that is kufr. That's kufr. But the Wahhabis don't say that. Someone who said that is unlearned. You show me one Wahhabi book by a real Wahhabi scholar that said that. Not a one. Physically has a hand and a face and physically sits. No one never said that. That doesn't mean it's right, but they didn't say that. And you don't have to go to extremes to say you're wrong. You're wrong. That belief is invalid. However, to go beyond and attribute to some people stuff they don't say, it doesn't work for da'wah. It hasn't worked, won't work, and we can't continue to do it. And we're better off just educating ourselves than accusing people. We're better off doing that. And that's why I say we need to learn to read. That's why we need to, right, We need to have resources so that we understand properly. No, this is important because I hear some stuff and it's like we going down the rabbit hole with this stuff, and I don't accept. Do y'all follow me? So this is not this is not a defense of Wahhabism. It's a clarification for us so we don't make mistakes when refuting Wahhabism. And that's the exactly point. The exact point. Let me explain something to you. What I'm really trying to get at here, and I'm gonna stop here with our book. But this is important. I'm only branching on it because it's so important for us. And keep in mind, I firmly understand that many people don't care about us. So for them, the harm of that doesn't bother them any. It only bothers us. So they don't mind pushing that agenda for their for their objectives. They don't care if we get harmed in the process, but we should care if we get harmed in the process. That's why I'm saying it, because the ones who's pushing that on us don't give a crap about what happens to us, but we better care about what happens to us. So we better deal with it. They ain't gonna divide their house, gonna divide ours, right? Here's what I'm saying. There's a difference from documenting a case, knowing it well, and acting according to it, right? There is also, that's one aspect. That's the difference from not knowing that. So here's what the scholar said in this book. Here are the authorities in this way. This is what they said. When you're talking about calling someone a kafir, that's something heavy. This is the facts. Then you got to understand we live in a time where nobody knows their place. Y'all do realize that, right? We live in a time where nobody knows their place in general. And when I say nobody, that doesn't mean every single individual. We're talking about in general. In general, nobody knows their place. Everybody's all over the place. That's in general. So you're going to have a person who has not studied the subject matter that they're talking about, but they will talk about it, right? And they will talk authoritative about it, but they didn't study the subject, right? Because now just everyone has an opinion about it. That person is going to make serious blunders in the subject he's talking about because he doesn't know the subject. So you can't take that person's statement as a definitive position on the subject. The person doesn't know the subject. He's talking about something they don't know. So whatever they say in terms of the reality of a thing, it really don't weigh. They don't know what they're talking about. Simple. Doesn't make them a bad person. And as a person, it just means they bad in that. You should just say, I don't know. Right? There's a difference. And so once you distinguish that, so once you distinguish those two things, you got something to work with. So, for instance, if someone said that Allah physically, and may Allah protect us from such blasphemous belief, physically has a hand and a face and physically sits in a place, this is kufr. But I want you to show me where one scholar physically uh, or textually said those words among their scholars, whom they consider scholars. You won't find that. So obviously, that's someone speaking outside of the realm of their understanding and made mistakes. And that's an individual mistake, not a group mistake. That's you are mistaken. You need to correct your belief. That's you. That doesn't make the whole group. Do you follow my point? Now, if the scholars among them, whom they consider scholars, said that, and then that was their official position, then we could say about that. What is their official position, by the way, which we totally disagree with? Their official position is that they say, like Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn Uthaymin of the latter people among them, among their scholars to them, they said it's not permissible to say that Allah is a body or not a body because the word body has not reached us in the text of the Quran and Sunnah. Therefore, we don't affirm and we don't reject while saying Allah is different from it. It's not like His creation. We don't accept such an explanation, but that's what they said. So they don't accept that you say Allah is a body because to them, you don't have no proof for that. And they don't accept that you don't say Allah is not a body because according to them, you don't have a proof for that, which for us is rejected. But they didn't say Allah is a body. Do you understand the difference? It's rejected. We don't accept as Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. But that's what they said. They didn't say that Allah is a big body going up and down the heavens and shrinking and growing, and He's a big face with hands and no face. Nobody said that stuff. That's your imagination. Do you understand the difference? It's a big difference. It's rejected. We don't accept. That's an entirely different discussion. But don't say somebody said something they didn't say. And then judge them by that, by your words and thoughts that you put on them. Why am I saying that? Because if someone's a real follower of that, they're not going to accept. Because you're saying something that they don't say. So they're not going to accept at all. They're going to think you're crazy. So refute what they actually say if you're going to refute something. And learn why that is wrong. And that's where we should concentrate our energy. That's where we should concentrate our energy. It may take a little bit more thinking. It may take a little more research. It may not be microwave Islam 101 that we like so much, but it's needed if we're really going to solve our problem. Do you follow what I mean? Is this point clear? Because I could not remain silent about this because I see what it will become. And I don't want us to repeat the same thing we've been repeating for 30 years and it hasn't served us. So it's better to educate us than just keep doing the same foolish stuff. Do y'all understand what I mean? I'm just, If you have any questions, I hope you're not confused. It shouldn't be confused, right? It shouldn't be confusing, but it may be for some, right? Because we're not, if we look at our situation, them books is all over the place, all over the place. Many masjids and institutions have these ideas. So we need to learn how to deal with them properly because we live with them. We have no choice. They're all around us. So you need to learn how to adequately uh, engage those ideas properly to get the result that we're looking for, inshallah ta'ala. And understand guidance is under the control of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. He guides whom he wills. But one thing that definitely ain't gonna work is putting words in people's mouth. Which one of you like that someone puts words in your mouth? Who likes that? Who appreciates that? Who accepts that someone puts words in your mouth and says things that you don't accept about you and say that's your position? No one likes that. And just to be right, you don't have to do that because that's not right. Let me answer your question, Malika. It's twofold. This is my thoughts. It is my thoughts. There's not a definitive answer for this. It's an approach. There's not a definitive answer. There's an approach. So don't take my answer as is a definitive answer. It's an approach. Do we need to focus our energy on that? Yes, I do. I believe we do. We need to learn our Islamic creed well and understand it well and distinguish it because it's not clear. Our differences in belief, when not clear, will prevent us from working together where we can work together. Once it's clear and defined and understood, then we can see the areas where we can work together. But if we don't clarify the issue, we will never even get to the point of working together. And I agree to the last point. We should take Mr. Charlie and our Arab cousins out the whole equation when it comes to our affairs or any other cousins for the purpose of us coming together. They need to be out of their affairs, period. When we're working on what we need to do, they can support, they can help, but they cannot influence because it's an internal thing. And as a brother, you can say, we want to help y'all get your internal matters together. We have internal matters. That's an internal thing, internal. So I agree with the third part, but I think we don't learn how to think for ourselves. We're afraid to think for ourselves because they have us so afraid on both ends that if I don't do that party line, I'm going to be a deviant, I'm going to be thrown off the minhaj, or I'm going to be a kafir. And because we don't know our religion, we actually buy that nonsense. Because we don't understand our deen, when they tell us, if you do that, you're going to be a kafir. If you do that, I'm going to warn against you and throw you off the minhaj. You're going to be a deviant. And we're so afraid because we're ignorant, we accept. And we just be like a deer in the headlights. And then they slaughter us. I don't know. We got to have some guts. Seriously. To do what you're talking about, we got to have some guts. And we're working on that. But you know the biggest block from working on that? I'm giving you in my city. I'm going to give you firsthand because there's people from Atlantic City. And nobody in Atlantic City who's been here don't know me, right? We have those people who have those ideas. They know me well. Every single one of them. They know who I am. They know me well. They know where to find me. They know me well. But guess what? They would never sit down and have a real conversation with me. Not about something else they would. But about the deen, no. You know why? Because they've been told, oh, they deviants, they Ash'ari, they Sufi, Masjid Muhammad. And they know better than that. But because of the pressure that's put on from external pressure, they won't dare come sit and have a real talk. Won't dare do it. And I've done it multiple times. Not an argument, not a debate, not a fight, a real conversation about the issues. No pride, no ego. Just sit down and let's talk. They won't do it. They'll make every excuse in the world to avoid it. Why? Because of external pressures. Not that they got a beef with me, not that they know me, right? So it's not like personal. It's someone else interfering in our affairs. So we stay divided and just without even talking about the issue. And a lot of it is I don't want to admit I'm mistaken. That's a lot of it. I'm mistaken. That's one of the big, so I'm just giving you, I'm talking about from my own city, I know that to be a truth. I know that to be a fact. Because I know the ones who are so-called leaders in those ideas in my area. I know who they are. I know them well. I know their levels. I know what they learned. I know who they learned. I know well. And likewise, they know the same about me, right? So I understand. I'm assuming that's predominantly the same thing everywhere. Someone else tell them, you better not talk to that deviant. You better not sit with him. You better not go do something with him. And I'm not talking about just me, but the person in another city, same stuff. It's safe to see that this is a problem. So what you have to do is get the others out your affairs, right? And I can speak of that in many places. Someone else is pulling your strings. You yourself, you don't necessarily yourself feel that approach, but the one who's pulling your strings, your Mr. Charlie or your Arab cousin, got you doing that. You yourself, you really, really, really yourself don't feel that way. But to fit in, to be under their approval, you'll go against what you know is right. You drunk the Kool-Aid. And I've seen it multiple times. I could call it out. So I'm just saying for us, we have a lot of growing to do. We have to be adults and not somebody's children. I hope my point is clear. Yeah, there's not enough teachers of Ahl Sunnah. I would say this, there are enough teachers of Ahl Sunnah, right? But as you said, they're not speaking publicly, explicitly. There are plenty. And we busy fighting each other, so, so that don't help none either. think that's the discussion. Before you can convince someone, I think you should clarify the issue, right? Let's understand the issue, all of us. What are we talking about here, right? And then when we understand the issue, we can know who's right and who's wrong. We don't even understand the issue. So I hope I hit that point because I definitely don't want us to keep making the same mistakes. And experience will teach you over time. Who was I listening to? Man, I forget what it was. Um, the meaning of what the person was saying is you can only cancel me once. He used a stronger word, but I ain't going to use that word. He said, so once you cancel me, it don't make a difference after that. You only can do it once. Once I'm canceled, I'm canceled. So it don't matter. You can't cancel me twice, right? And I say that once they kick you off the minhaj, once they call you a kafir, it's over. They can't do it twice. There's no double jeopardy. Once no double jeopardy. Once they kick you off the minhaj, it's over. And once they call you a kafir, it's over. It's it. So don't worry about it no more. It's done. They only get that one time. So once they give it to you, now go do what you got to do because it's over. They can't do it twice. Do y'all follow what I mean by that? But now they've done you a favor because now you can think. Now you're not in this box that prohibits you from using your intellect. And this is a serious, serious issue. So please, just be careful with this throwing around kafir stuff. Make sure if someone is judged as a kafir, you actually know what you're talking about, right? And it's not as light as people make it, right? We can disagree. We can see each other as wrong. And we can discuss those disagreements and those points which we see the other to be wrong. But we don't necessarily have to go to extremes to do that, right? And let me give you some sound advice. If someone is a true believer in Islam, and you call them a kafir, you have hurt them in a way you can never imagine. And if you're wrong, you've done real damage. Even if you're right, you've hurt them if they really believe. And sometimes that may be necessary, but you should explain. But keep the side of it. That person who really thinks they're a believer, and you call them a kafir, if they really a believer, I'm talking about in their own side. If you're wrong in that, it's worse. And that damage is probably, it can't be repaired. Seriously. I'll give you an example. A person called me a kafir, dead out of place. I had a lot of respect for that person. When that person did that, I lost respect for them, the organization, and everybody who follow them. They could tell me it's raining outside. I'm gonna check the weather forecast. I'm gonna get on the phone first. I'm gonna call the weatherman himself before I believe they say it's raining outside. You see the damage? It was a time when it said it's raining outside, I would just grab my umbrella. But if they say it's raining outside, man, let me check the weather. Matter of fact, give me the weatherman's phone number. I'm gonna call him first. Just because they said it. Because they're reckless. You see my point? They're reckless. And I know you're reckless. So I'm not just gonna take your word for it. And the bad thing about it is you could be right. But because it's you, no. No. Absolutely not. That's the damage. That's the damage. And that damage happened in the Black community for many Blacks. I'm not listening to them at all, period. That's damage. But it's your fault. So we can't be like that. We can't be like that. Not when we're trying to do the last part of the last three in the 3453 code. What is the last part in the last three? The 3453 code, the last three, what is the last thing in it? Y'all got it? I'm keeping y'all the 3453. What is the last part of the three in the 345? Dawah. Exactly. Reckless accusations of innovation and disbelief, kufr, are a da'wah killer. Destroys the da'wah. Destroys it. And not only did you damage the da'wah, you damaged it for other Sunnis as well. Because anything that sounds like that will automatically be rejected because of where it's perceived to come from. You've really done a lot of damage. Don't know how damaging this stuff is. I remember I was in Egypt. I don't know if it was the last time or the time before that. On the grave of Imam Shafi'i, somebody put a bunch of stickers. I don't know who did it, but they put like these stickers that said, Allah exists without a place. Allah mawjudun bila makan in Arabic. Which is the belief of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. And I was with one of my teachers. In fact, I know exactly when it was now that I think about it. And my teacher was furious. And he automatically blamed a specific group of people. He didn't see who put it on there, but just the words, which is his words too, he's Ahl Sunnah. He automatically pointed to a certain group of people. Why? Because he found their behavior distasteful. He attributed automatically to them. So in a way, that behavior became a hallmark for someone, and it made it look bad to others who were Sunni, who that's your belief. So imagine what others think. We cannot afford to do that. We can't afford to do that. We can't make that mistake. And it's been made in our community for a long time from different groups, not all the same people, because we go through group to group to group to group, right? So that happens. But that's a common mistake that many of the groups have made. Let's not make that mistake as a collective people. Let's learn our religion well, to the best of our ability, to the access we have, and we have a lot more access. Let's understand the issues well, and then let's slowly begin to work our way through real divisive issues. And even if they remain issues that divide us, they don't have to be destructive for our worldly life. They can be issues that are solved in the hereafter while we learn to properly live in society together. That's the challenge. And I'll stop there. Wow, I went way over time. If there's any questions or clarification, I'll take the next 10 minutes to answer any questions about what I talked about. I'm sorry that I went so long, but this bothers me when I think about it, because I see it happening, and I can't remain silent because I know the harms in it. I know the harm in it. Extremism is not good for nobody. No matter which direction extremism is, if you extremely falling short or you excessive in trying to establish truth, extremism will destroy. Moderation is what it's sought. Balance, fairness, that's what it's sought in all matters. Mm, tell you, what's today? Oh, we put in the Group tomorrow morning. I don't know how to move this flyer. I should have been done it. So I'll put it up so you can look at it. There is a program tomorrow at Masjid Muhammad of Philadelphia. There is the address. There is the times. 414 East Penn Street, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I meant to put that flyer up, but I forgot. So it is an introduction to the study of hadith. They put the science of hadith, but it's not really going to be about the science of hadith. It's going to be about the study of hadith in general. Oh, it's on Facebook? Okay, good. I put it up on my own page, but so hopefully we'll see some of you tomorrow from 11 to 5. Last question. Don't just be an example. If someone is super arrogant and ignorant, I don't know how much you're going to get out of them. Just be an example of the opposite. So be super humble and learned in front of them, and hopefully a trace of that reaches them. But you can't argue with an arrogant, ignorant person. There's nothing to do with them. And Allah knows best. Because the arrogant person and ignorant, they're not even going to listen to truth. Especially when you're super arrogant. They're not going to listen. They lost their reasoning. Tayyib, inshallah, we'll see some of you tomorrow, inshallah. Barakallahu bikum. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.